on to the next module in which we'll be discussing title companies. Title companies are the last hurdle that we will be jumping over the sale process in purchasing real estate. What is a title company? What do they do? We're going to go into that now. Most people do not know what a title company is. They're not familiar with it. They've never heard of that term before. Even if you're an agent or a normal consumer, if you don't have any real estate experience, it's something that's that we just really don't discuss. So let's go over the definition, and then we'll talk a little bit about that. The title company makes sure that the title to a piece of real estate is legitimate, and then issues title insurance for that property. Title insurance protects the lender and or owner against the lawsuits or claims against the property that would result from disputes over the title. We're going to discuss that in layman's terms here in a second. They also facilitate all the financial disbursements to the sellers, the county entities, as well as payments to your truly the realtors. That's why they're our best friend. So now let's discuss this. Let's break it down. A title company, in layman's terms, they're the deputy sheriff. They're the ones who facilitate to make sure everyone's following the rules. They're the ones that make sure everyone gets paid correctly to the penny. All fees and transactions to the county to make sure buyer gets to purchase the seller's property without any issues or any issues that could happen in the future. Okay, so they make sure that any liens, any disputes that's currently going on with the property is all taken care of before they will allow or sign off on allowing a buyer to purchase from the seller. Okay, now we're going to go back up to the top, and there's something called title insurance. When a buyer purchases a seller's home or property, title insurance is purchased. Now, depending on where you live in the United States, sometimes the seller pays for this expense, sometimes it's the buyer. So check with your local board and how they handle that. But title insurance is basically an insurance policy that for some reason, if a buyer purchases a property from your seller and 6, 7, 8 months or years go down the line, and someone knocks on the new owner's door and says, hey, I did a roofing job 10 years ago and you owe me $10,000. And the owner's like, well, I've only owned this home for 6 years. I have no idea what you're talking about. That if they're going to sue them for some reason, that title insurance will kick in and kind of protect that new buyer of that property to ensure that they don't have any issues or disputes from family members, long lost heirs, or what have you, that they would come back to go after the poor new owners of the property that have no idea what's going on. But the title company's main job is to make sure all those disputes and issues, everything from a water bill, is all taken care of, condo fees, homeowners, tax, property taxes, all of that's settled, and there's no issues. So when they hand those keys from the seller to the new buyer, we can rest assured that all those issues are taken care of. Also, too, all disbursements, realtors, we get our checks and our commissions are paid to us from the title company, as well as if the seller had a loan that was on the property, that that bank would be paid off in full, and any proceeds or profits would be put into a written check to the seller. So they really facilitate. They play a huge part in this process. And title companies are used regardless if the house is purchased with a loan or purchased with cash. They do facilitate regardless of how the property is purchased, or if it's traded. If it's someone trades one piece of property for another, they're going to facilitate that transaction to make sure everything is legitimate. So let's take a look at title companies. Are heavily monitored and scrutinized because there's they have a very important job, and there's a lot of money that is exchanged between hands during a sale of a property. And one of the jobs, as we know, is what's called a settlement statement. And a settlement statement is very important. I need all of you to understand what a settlement statement looks like. All settlement statements are almost identical. They could have slight variations if some companies put their logo at the top or what have you. But what a settlement statement is, this comes from your title company. And this is required by federal law. And what that is a breakdown to the penny of any costs that are incurred or expenses in the sale and transaction of a home. Okay, so one side is going to have the buyers, and then the other side would have the seller side, as you can see at the top. And they will have everything, all expenses broken down to the penny, to show how much everything from a staple, so to speak, would be listed on this sheet. So they are, and buyers and sellers clearly know what they're being charged. And this is a very important part of the process. Post a lot of the predatory lending issues that we had about 10 years ago, where a lot of people were getting charged unnecessary fees, and they were hiding them in these settlement statements. But now they make them very clear that all sellers and buyers know what type of expenses that are being incurred. Why I want you to know this settlement statement very clearly is, well, first and foremost, depending on the page, sometimes it's on page 3, depending on the amount of expenses, but our commissions are listed on these settlement statements. I want to make sure when you receive your settlement statement, you receive settlement statements about 2 times during the process. Once near the beginning of the process after you go into contract on the sale of a house. But the final settlement statement, which is most important, you will receive that a day, maybe 2 days before closing. I want you to review this for your client to make sure a couple things are correct. Okay, one is the commissions are correct, that you're getting paid the correct commissions. I've had it where I've been overpaid, and I wanted to, let the title company know that the amount of money that we were getting paid as a real estate company was incorrect. So they have to make those corrections. I also want to make sure that if there's any credits, if the seller was going to give the buyer $500 to fix the furnace because the furnace wasn't working quite well during the inspection period, that credit would show up on this settlement statement. If you remember when you took your license and examination, any inducement needs to be in a written form so everyone understands what's going on, and that would show up on the settlement statement. Okay, so I want you to be very familiar with the settlement statement, especially the most important part is just make sure your commissions are correct, and so you get paid accordingly. Okay, there's a lot of other numbers on here. If you have a client that has questions about how much money is the down payment they need to bring, or how much are they getting back, please do not try to answer these questions for them. Revert them to the title company. You are not a title company expert. If you are off and give them the wrong, incorrect information, the title company's job is to tell your client, your borrower, how much money they need to bring as their down payment to closing. That is not your job. That is the title company's job, as well as the bank. So if they have any questions about expenses or what this line item means or that, please refer them to the source, which is the title company. I can't stress that enough. Do not try to be the hero and try to answer questions that you have no qualifications in answering. So, but get to know this, be really familiar with the different types of expenses, but most importantly, just make sure your commission amounts are correct. That way we get paid so you can get paid quicker via direct deposit. And that is their final partner in the real estate transaction process flow. Thank you for watching this module, and we'll see you on the next one.